live now. So give us a couple minutes. So for anybody that's currently attending, we're currently in the process of getting live now. So give us a couple minutes, please.
And if you're on YouTube, please post your questions. Or maybe say hi where you are joining from. We would love to know.
All right, Vinny, we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. So by all means, go ahead and start the show.
Awesome. All right. Hi, everybody. We are joining our second office hours for this year. We have Scott, Ryan, Denny, and myself on the panel. So why don't we introduce yourself? Scott, you want to go ahead?
For sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me again. I'm Scott. I'm a software engineer on the Delta ecosystem team at Databricks, working on a lot of exciting open source features and connectors in the community, and happy to answer everyone's questions.
How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm Ryan, software engineer in Databricks, and working in the same team as Scott. And I have been working on data lake since the beginning. Yeah, pretty excited to hear any feedback for the data lake.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Scott and Ryan. Denny, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, thanks very much, Vinny. Hi, everybody. My name is Denny Lee. I'm a longtime Brickster, longtime Spark Delta Lake guy, just here to answer some questions. I did want to call out right away that you probably have some questions on the 2022 H1 roadmap that was published in a blaze of glory last night. So we're going to post it in there. But Vinny, why don't you go ahead and start the show? And meanwhile, I'll go ahead and post the roadmap to both LinkedIn and YouTube concurrently.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction, all the panelists. We have attendees from Virginia, Bangalore, Seattle, Argentina. Oh my God, nice. Germany, England, Bristol, Atlanta. Wow, so many folks around the globe. So excited to have you here. So as Denny mentioned, we just released the roadmap yesterday night. If you have any questions about roadmap, please ask away, and I will be monitoring YouTube as well as LinkedIn channels. So please post your comments over there. Yeah, so let's begin with our first question. Scott, do you want to provide update on the Flink Delta connector? I think that's really hot in the market right now.
Yeah, for sure, Vinny. I'd be happy to. So for those that don't know, just this past year, we finally completed both the read and the write functionality of our Delta standalone library. And what this library does is it lets, in a single JVM without using Spark, any connector actually integrate with Delta Lake, which is great because now it's really helping to add a lot more connectors to our ecosystem. So one of those connectors that we're working on right now is the Flink Sync. We're also working on a source as well. So Flink Sync's coming along. We're just finalizing the public API and making the API as succinct and useful to people as it could possibly be. And we're just finishing up some Java docs and some examples. So we hope to be releasing that soon.
So a follow-up question, Scott, does it mean if I have Flink as my system, would I be able to read from Delta Lake, or would I be also able to write to the Delta Lake?
Mm-hmm. So there's both the sync, which is writing, and the source, which is reading. From our feedback from the community, the sync was a higher priority. So that's what we're doing first. We're letting Flink connectors and Flink engines write into Delta. And then soon enough, as we come along with the source, you'll also be able to read from Delta Lake as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. So for all the streaming folks out there, if you have like lots of streams going on, if you're connected to stream, this is an exciting news. Now you can speed up your queries, make sense out of your data using Delta Lake. Exciting. Awesome. And then Denny, another question would be, there are some funny comments in the chat. That's why I'm laughing.
No problem. Actually, you know what, Vinny, why don't you go ahead and figure out the question? I did want to add one little tidbit on behalf of Scott, but Scott did forget to call out. The Delta standalone project actually is so crucial that in fact, it's not just the Flink connector that actually was it actually is the basis for the Hive connector, right? That was recently released, and also the Presto DB reader, okay? So the Presto DB reader, which we announced, I think in December sometime, but yes, so that's already been merged in. And so if you're specifically looking for it, is part of the 269 snapshot of Presto DB. I don't know why I remember the number, but it is what it is. But but nevertheless, so it is actually crucial. Also, we're working with the Pulsar team and some other teams using the exact same thing for integrations. And so just want to let you know. So, but this is how we actually had a blog post that I think all of us here wrote that basically was what we deemed the ubiquity of Delta standalone that actually calls us out. So just want to add that little bit of call out.
Thank you, Denny, for adding that. Yeah, so one question to you will be, as you were working on publishing this roadmap from the community, what are some of the highlights from the roadmap that community can look forward to?
Sure, Ryan, I'm actually going to target you first, but I'll do it this way. Why don't we talk a little bit about the optimized features, just because I know you're heavily involved with those. So about basically the performance enhancement, specifically optimize the order, and data snipping. Let's start with that with you, Ryan.
Yeah, so first we will try to open source basically the optimize command, which the first version will support like a file compaction, which you can run optimize command to compact small files. And then the next step, we will support for example, optimize with the order. The order is kind of trying to sort your table in a great way. So we can do like a better data skipping. Basically, we also are going to open source like a file states, which of the Delta writes. We also generate the file states for everything you write to the Delta table. And then we will leverage these file states to do, for example, data skipping. And this is there will be a lot of performance improvements here. And we are pretty excited to see like how fast the Delta can become after all of these features are released. Yep.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryan. So there was a Z-order component in the Delta Lake engine, which was available in the Databricks runtime. So if you were already using those co-locating of data through Z-order, that's now going to be available in Delta Lake. Yeah. Any other callouts, Denny?
Oh, sure. So basically, if you look at the, hopefully you all have the link. And if you need me to send the link again to LinkedIn, sometimes it doesn't come through. Just let me know and I'll post it back out there. But so basically, the quick call out is that if you look at the roadmap, we broke it down, and this is also a proposal. I do want to call that out. In other words, we want your discussion. Now, we're pretty sure everything on this list you want, because that was based on the Slack messages, the Google group messages, the community AMAs we've done in the past, and the survey. We had this huge survey, okay, that we got last year where we sent out 700 t-shirts, and you all should have them now. So, and we will fix that, by the way, so they'll get out faster. We're pretty sure this is what y'all want, okay? So, but it is a discussion, so by all means, please chime in and into that GitHub repo and add comments, things that we may have missed, okay? So the first one was the performance optimizations. There's also schema operations. Ryan or Scott, did you want to talk about those, which is the specifically column mapping, read support, and column renaming and dropping?
Yeah, I can talk about this. This basically, we are adding the support to, for example, you can rename a column in your Delta table with a different name, or you can just drop a column that you think this may contain like sensitive data and you don't need this column anymore. Then you can try to drop this column, which is like a pretty I think a long asking requirement in the community. And then we are, because this is pretty hard, so that's why we are right now just start to work on this, but we expect this should be complete soon. And with Spark support, we also need to do some like a Spark change in order to support this like a new syntax and a new feature. Yep.
Perfect. Greg says Databricks is going to be a long-term project for me. That's awesome, Greg. We would love to have your feedback on the roadmap as well, as it's been a long-term project for you. Great. There is a question about Kafka Delta ingest, and the question is, same question for Confluent Kafka source and sync from and to Delta Lake. So we are working on Kafka Delta ingest, and unfortunately QP couldn't join today, but happy to get somebody from the panel answer a question. How is Kafka Delta ingest going?
No problem. So actually, we recently, I think late last year, did a tech talk specifically in Kafka Delta ingest. I'll try to see if I can find it and post it directly inside LinkedIn here, since the question came from here. So the question basically is, can I go ahead and write from Kafka directly to a Delta Lake? Okay, and so yes, you absolutely can. So Kafka, in the past, a lot of people would often use Kafka through Spark streaming, structured streaming into Delta Lake, and yes, that's normal as heck too. But the real ask is like, no, I just want to natively write it. And so some of our Delta committers from Script and Backmarker, they created a project called Kafka Delta Ingest. It's actually built on top of the Delta Rust API, so it's very, very memory cool. Okay, like in terms of very memory optimized. And so, long story short, it actually goes ahead and allows you to take your Kafka topics and write directly to Delta Lake, following the Delta protocol. And so it's built on top of the as I noted, it's built on the Delta Rust API. But what's interesting about the Delta Rust API itself can read, it can't write. But the Kafka Delta ingest can go ahead and write. So one of the callouts that we did in the roadmap actually is the Delta Rust folks are working on taking the high-level APIs that are in the Kafka Delta ingest and merging them back into Delta Rust itself, such that Delta Rust you can go ahead and read and write. Why is that important? Because in addition to the core Rust API being able to do that, so now you can use Rust to go ahead and read and write. Don't forget, the Rust API also has Python bindings and also Ruby bindings. So subsequently, that means you can go ahead and write to Delta using through the Rust API, use it with Python and Ruby subsequently. Now, of course, there's still a little bit of work to do. You have to update the bindings. We will always invite y'all to go ahead and join us in the community to talk to it. We actually have Delta Rust meetings every 2 weeks. So if you want to go ahead and chat with us then, by the same token, there's the Delta Rust channel. Just join us there too. So hopefully that answers that question. I did want to call out actually, and this is to Scott now, also on the roadmap, we had called out something super important. In this case, it's the S3 multi-cluster rights. So Scott, you've been super involved with that project, working with the community as well. So why don't you give us a quick update on that, because I think that would be super interesting for folks.
Yeah, for sure, Denny, thanks. So late last year, we had an awesome open source contributor make a PR to add S3 multi-cluster write functionality to Delta Lake. So what this problem is essentially solving is the fact that S3 doesn't give us one of the critical things that Delta Lake needs when performing writes, which is mutual exclusion. So the way that this open source contributor solved that is by using another external store, DynamoDB, to give us that mutual exclusion. So they created the PR, and I was the engineer on the ecosystem team that was sent to review it and tweak the design a little bit. And so now we're fully working with them. The PR is being updated. There's great integration tests. And so hopefully in the next coming months, we'll be able to add this new exciting functionality to Delta Lake. And I'm really excited to see what new use cases customers and users will have for multi-cluster writes.
Awesome. And then, so sorry, Vinny, I apologize. I'm actually looking at the YouTube link, and since it involves Scott, I'm just going to segue to him and then send it back to you, Vinny. There's a great question from Oliver. Any visibility for the standalone connector, the one, your project, for Scala 2.13, basically Spark 3.x? Just any visibility on that?
So 2.13, I believe, was actually added recently, and in the next connectors release, that will be available. And in terms of Spark integration, you don't need to worry about Spark integration because the standalone doesn't use Spark. So no dependency issues there. So yeah, the next connector 0.4.0 release, you can expect Scala 2.13. I'm great that someone asked about that actually, because we were just talking about that today in one of my meetings. So I'm glad someone cares.
Awesome. There are a few questions about what's the topic. So these are the Delta office hours. So Delta Lake is a project for the community who are doing data pipelines. So any any challenges you face building Delta Lake or setting up your pipeline, or maybe even like connecting to other tools in the big data ecosystem, please bring that away. And we always host these sessions. We also host some demos as well as tech talks on specific topics. So if you are just getting started and you want to learn more about the Delta Lake project, you can definitely tune in on our YouTube or tune into our Slack channel, Google Groups, etc. Hope that answers some of your questions on the comments. And then there was a question about, I'm currently needing to transform the Spark Delta data frame to Pandas data frame to Torch for modeling. However, the data size is too big for trying to call two Pandas function. Is there a way to get around this? I think the question is around like how you can use the Pandas frame for the big data. So I posted a link on this YouTube channel. Please check that out. There is a config released on the PyPy page. But anybody from the panel, have you seen this issue occurring with big data on Python API? Is Qualys the right option, Denny?
It should be. Qualys is the right option, though. We've called it now the Pandas API for Spark, but this is a Delta Lake session, so let's skip the Spark questions for now, if that's okay. We have Spark sessions separately for that, and so let's definitely stick to Delta Lake. Yeah. So if there are no other questions, one thing we can definitely do is also talk about integrations, if you'd like. And by the way, I did notice folks on LinkedIn, there's actually two small problems. One thing I just realized, the LinkedIn actually still says Databricks University Alliance, so that may have explained why there was some confusion. So yes, this is what we're currently talking about, Delta Lake. And then Shiv, one of our old buddies from previous community AMAs. Yes, go ahead and ask your question. Please prop it down on LinkedIn. Meanwhile, let me go ahead and at least provide a little context on the integrations aspect of the Delta roadmap, okay? And so as we already noted, we've already talked about PrestoDB and we've already talked about Flink, okay? Now, to be a little bit more specific, when it comes to Flink, what we're doing is we're talking about it from the standpoint of the Streams API, which is Flink 1.12, 1.13. Well, more 1.12 anyways. We're also currently working in terms of working on a timeline, I'd say around Q2, Q3, the Flink Sync for the table API as well, which is basically, we're talking about 1.14, 1.15 version of Apache Flink, okay? So for those folks that are interested, inside the GitHub repo, we actually also link directly to the Flink Delta connector channel, so you can talk to us and work with us there, whether you want to test, whether to contribute, things of that nature, okay? There is an Apache data Delta source for Apache Pulsar. The beta code's actually already up and running, but they're updating it to work with the latest version of Delta standalones for memory optimization. So once that's done, we'll be able to announce that as well. So, but the code base is actually already sitting in the Apache Pulsar repo. Let's see what else we have. Oh, just as Scott noted, we also are talking about the Delta source for Apache Flink, okay? i.e. the ability for Apache Flink to read from Delta. Right now, the thing we've been talking about is writing to Apache Flink, for Apache Flink to write to Delta. Now we're going to be talking about Delta being able to, Apache Flink to read from Delta. So that is the Delta source for Apache Flink. That is also targeted for Q2, Q3 timeframe as well. Okay, I already talked about the Delta Rust writer, so that's cool with that one. But then the other key thing, and actually this is just literally an update. The community, we've specifically Florian, so I'm going to call our buddy Florian, and hopefully I can get him to come to our next community AMA, so he can go ahead and ask questions. So because he's much more knowledgeable than I am. But we actually have started working on the idea of a Delta source for Google BigQuery. Okay, so basically allows BigQuery to natively read Delta Lake tables. Okay, so we actually already created a Delta BigQuery connector channel, I think. But there'll be more about that soon, but we're targeting also Q2, Q3, but Florian is taking the lead on this one. He's one of the Delta committers who is based out of Back Market in France. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of the integrations that are in play. But yes, hopefully if you have any questions, by all means, chime in here too.
Great, thanks for the insights, Denny, on the connectors. Now, next question is, any plans for point-in-time join queries to be supported natively by Delta Lake? Point-in-time join queries. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Ryan to do it, but I'm not entirely sure about this question. So we might need clarification, but maybe Ryan, you would know this better.
Maybe.
No.
Yeah, or maybe we can talk about merge. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
No, but go for it, Ryan.
No, I think we need some clarification about what point-in-time join means. Is it the Spark feature? Probably it should ask to Spark, no Delta Lake, I think. For basically, Delta Lake doesn't like do like a SQL planning or of this stuff. We are basically rely on like a Spark to build the SQL plan and then execute and then just read from Delta or write to Delta. It's not like a Spark feature, no Delta feature.
Yeah, so thanks, Vinny. Yeah, Antonio, please, if you can in this YouTube, like the next couple minutes, clarify what you mean. Maybe we're possibly missing something, so apologies.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so I think the next question is, when Z-order a table and do a select statement on it using my Z-ordered column in the where clause, it is super fast. But if I do a where value in and then put the list of values, it takes the same time as individual queries would take. Why is this so?
I think, so this basically asking Databricks Z-order, right? So for this one, and I think it's probably because we have like a threshold of how many, like for example, items in this in set. If you have like, I don't remember the threshold is maybe 5 or 10, but if you have more than like like 5 or 10 items in the list, either we are not basically either we are like fall back to the normal like a query because it could be much faster than you are doing like a data skipping. Yeah, if you feel this is you expect is much faster, you can try to reduce the items in the list.
Got it. Thank you, Ryan. That's a helpful suggestion. And he also responded that, skip if it's not relevant, he can reach us out on Slack. Thank you, Shiv. Awesome. And then there are a few questions about Databricks specific Delta. So I'm going to post a link in the LinkedIn chat where you can ask and get involved in Databricks community as well. So let me, take the next question. So
actually, Vinny,
yeah.
I would suggest basically because we only have 2 minutes left, why don't we just answer the last one more question? And I just noticed the question on YouTube. So why don't you just do that one, which is Alexander, had basically said he saw Z-order on the roadmap, it'll be open source. And yes, the simple answer to that question is yes, it will be open source. We're targeting, you know what, I'm gonna go look at the roadmap again. When are we targeting this again? Yeah, we're targeting this for Q2. No, Z-order.
Q2. Yeah. Q2.
Optimized Falcon action Q1, Z-order specifically for Q2. So yes, it is. By all means, please go ahead and chime in directly into the GitHub or Delta user Slack for that matter. By the way, there is a 2022 H1 roadmap channel as well. So you can even just chime in there specifically to ask us questions on that. But go ahead and chime us there because it is unequivocally being open sourced. We are working with the community rapidly on this as well. So I think that covers it right now because, like I said, there are a lot of other questions for more Databricks specific. So let's not do that. This is the open source one. So
yes, thank you, Denny. And I posted some links in the chat. Hopefully you find them useful. I think a lot of your questions are surrounded by some connectors as well as the latest in the roadmap. So please follow us on those links and just have a discussion with us. Another cool thing is, as Denny mentioned, I think in the Q1, the main highlight is data skipping. I think I'm really excited for that feature. So anyway, this was very helpful and engaging discussion. Thanks to the panel. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Just thanks for having us, Vinny. Glad to answer everyone's questions and see everyone in 2 weeks.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks, Denny. And thanks, everyone, for joining from all over the world. See you next week. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.